All right, good afternoon again. We're delighted to be joined by Mr. Takasu, the Undersecretary General for Management, who will be here to brief you on the financial state of the United Nations.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm very pleased to come here every 6 months to brief you financial status of the United Nations. First of all, on behalf of the Secretary General, I'd really like to express deepest gratitude to Member States for making strenuous effort to make their contribution timely. First of all, I have a lot of numbers. I'm sorry, no, probably it's not a normal press briefing, but the financial situation, you need a number. So I try to less technical as possible, but anyway, some of the key numbers I don't enforce. The covering page summarizes overall status of financial status. There are three basically assessed contributions. First, regular budget. One is second, peacekeeping operation, and international tribunals, basically. The CMP is completed, so we have three. And overall financial indicators remain generally, I would say, sound and then positive. That is the message. Overall, sound and positive at this moment. At the end of last year, 2016, I can see the unpaid assessed contribution was lower for regular budget and tribunal, but higher for peacekeeping operation because of the timing of assessment letters. And you can see the cash balance of the end of last year was positive except the regular budget. Regular budget indicate, as you say, 123 million deficit. I'm going to explain this later. More recently, at the end of April, unpaid assessment were lower in all categories, means it's good news. Cash balance are currently positive all categories. Except the regular budget, probably toward the end of the year, we have to watch carefully. But apart from that, UN is a very good financial situation. That I just want to tell you. As regard the UN owe to troop contributing countries, on the one hand, member state owe to UN, but UN owe to countries who are providing troops and equipment and police. And level of outstanding payment to member states to UNO was lower now than previous year. We are making a very good effort on this one too, but still higher than, I think, ideal situation. Let's focus on regular budget first. You can see from here, assessment were issued beginning of the year, a level of $2.578 billion, means just below $2.6 billion. Regular budget in UN is organized every 2 years, approved. So half of that will be, assessed to member state beginning of the year, 2017. And payment received so far, $6 billion, meaning 92 member states paid all already now. And which is 13 countries more than this time of last year. So it's clear that member states take very, very seriously this year to pay in time. So currently, regular budget cash position is positive. You can see here $632 million we have cash. On top of that, we do have some kind of reserves I'm going to talk about. However, question is the latter part of this year. Regular budget cash will continue to face pressure given the pattern of payment from member state and also level of reserve. So final cash position toward the end of this year is very much depending on how much we received from those member states which have not yet paid their share yet. Next one is peacekeeping operations. Peacekeeping operations, you may know, have a different budgetary cycle from regular budget. Regular budget, as I told you, 2 calendar year. But peacekeeping operation is annual budget, and also from July 1 to June 30th following year. And also, as you see, this Security Council authorized always. So extend another thing. It's depending on timing of decision by GA, Security Council. Data of assessment is not issued every time of the year, throughout the year. So it's more difficult, challenging for member states to be current. But I know that the member states are making great effort on this one. At this moment, we have a total amount outstanding for peacekeeping operations. At the end of 2016 was $1.8 billion. But more recently, at the end of April, we have issued a new assessment of $1.2 billion. But anyway, this is some kind of process on this one. Most important number for peacekeeping operation is that we have a very good financial situation. That unpaid contribution is $1.6 billion. And we have cash of $4 billion for peacekeeping. This is a really good situation. As regard outstanding payment to member state, this is the issue, a very, very important issue, because on one hand, these troop contributing countries are providing troops and the equipment and so. They deserve to be paid, reimbursed, timely manner, obviously. We are making every effort to accelerate this payment to reduce the amount that we owe to troop contributing countries and the contingent on equipment, we call it this. But we are, the fact of the matter is, at the end of March, still $777 million. And then this, in fact, the breakdown is written here. Out of 777 million we owe to troop contributing countries, 225 million are troop cost. In fact, we are making great effort on this one quarterly payment. So up to January, we are paying. But there is a time lag for this one. So you will see next this graph breakdown of distribution of 777 million we owe to member state. You can see major troop contributing countries starting from Ethiopia, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Egypt, Rwanda, so and so. So those countries deserve a timely payment. The conclusion is that the first message is currently UN financial situation is generally sound and positive for all categories. This is the result of continued effort by member state. And due to this effort, there are increases in number of member states which paid fully already, and all categories, not only regular budget, peacekeeping, others. So therefore, I think a special tribute should be paid to 39 countries in the list. In the fifth committee this morning, I read out all this, but because of time, I will not going to read out. But this is an extraordinary effort because particularly in case of peacekeeping, timeliness is important. Last week, we only issued, not last week, very earlier, we sent a letter of assessment, and they have to pay already. So this is amazing effort on this. So 39 countries, which is more than 1 year ago. And then this shows the seriousness of many member states about UN finance. Next message is about the regular budget. The regular budget cash is at this moment fine, but toward the end of the year, it is expected to tighten. And this is basically the same pattern as in the past. In other words, the experience of these several years is that when most of the country pay by, say, now or early summer. So financial situation, cash situation is fairly good. But U.S. payment comes basically after October, November. So therefore, that timing of this is very important. In order to deal with cash flow problem, the UN has so-called reserve, regular budget reserve, which is called working capital fund, and also special account. There's a kind of reserve to manage cash flow payment. And this is in total $350 million, equivalent to 6 weeks operation of UN. And last year, for instance, 2016, UN has to borrow slightly more. In other words, $350 million was not enough. So therefore, we have used some internal borrowing from other account. And I really believe that this reserve in regular budget should be reviewed. It was only 10 years ago that working capital fund has been upgraded from $100 million to $150 million. For a long, long time, working capital fund has kept $100 million. The budget was very, very much smaller than recent years. So therefore, I think this is the issue that I have raised this issue to the General Assembly today. Obviously, Secretariat will continue to monitor the cash flow very, very closely, and then to make sure that we keep this tight financial management to make it our responsibility and carry out activities. All right. The next point is that responsibility of Secretariat to the troop contributing member state. This is the highest priority for all of us, and we are making every possible effort to expedite payment to those troop contributing countries in the COA claims. But basically, unlike many other international organizations, the financial constitution and other things, UN doesn't have its own internal income or generating income. It's totally depending on income, the contribution made by a member state. And here we are talking about assessed contribution. We're not talking about a voluntary program like UNHCR or UNICEF. And it's very, very important that member states meet their financial obligation in full and on time. And very much urging all member states continue to make continuous effort. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to take any question.
Thank you. Edie?
Thank you very much, Mr. Takasu, on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. I have a question about the latest United States budget proposal, which reduces both the regular budget and the peacekeeping budget for the next fiscal year. What impact is that going to have on the United Nations?
First of all, the General Assembly approved the program budget for 2016-17 at the end of last year. And UN budget is not budget, it's called program budget. In other words, member states negotiated level of activities and then also financial envelope for doing these things. And also member states, including United States and every member state, agreed how this budget should be shared, so-called scale of assessment. And it's reviewed every 3 years. And 16, 17, 18, they have negotiated those one. So therefore, it is obligation, legal obligation of any member state to fulfill their legal obligations. That's very clear. And secondly, it is the responsibility of Secretary General to implement the program that has been approved by General Assembly. So therefore, Secretary General has no unilaterally cut the program. See? So this is the situation where we are. And the specific question about United States payment and other things, in fact, we have not formally informed about level of contribution to United Nations this year. Of course, we are hearing many things, we're reading many things, but no specific notification about position of the United States vis-a-vis U.S. UN assessed contributions. And in terms of responsibility of cash flow, as I told you, that year 2016, it was very tight since September to October, November, December. And the year 2015, same situation. In other words, up to early September, every year, we do have a reasonably good cash balance. And then question is beyond that, September and all things. So at this moment, I would say that it's, we should be planning a lot of things, how to make the organization, efficient and other things. But at this moment, I don't think it's, we don't have any basis to cut program.
Could I ask one other question regarding assessed contributions? If any country pays part of its assessed contribution, but not its entire assessed contribution, I believe it's a period of 2 years that you lose your voting rights.
Yes.
Does that apply if you do only a partial payment and not the full payment?
Okay. Thank you for the question. As you know, that Article 19 of UN Charter is very clear. Member states has obligation to pay, but if they accumulate arrears exceeding amount of contributions due for preceding 2 full years, that member state will lose a voting right in General Assembly. That's the application. And right now there are 5 member states which are in that category. Of course, member state, General Assembly also have the right to permit such a member state if it is satisfied that the failure to pay is due to conditions beyond the control of the member state. And that's been happening too. As regard the potential question, of course, again, this is counted once a year, beginning of the year, meaning the beginning of 2000, future is 18, beginning of January means 2019, and then the beginning of every year, this amount that country owe, Let's put all together. Assessed contribution means 3 categories: regular budget, peacekeeping, and then tribunal, all categories. And whatever arrears is exceeding twice of that entire assessment, then that country will lose voting right. That is the rule, and that has been applied many countries in the past in history.
Rosalind?
Yes, thank you, sir. Rosalind Jordan with Al Jazeera English. I wanted to follow up on Edie's question. The current proposal for fiscal year 2017 from the U.S. is approximately half of what it's supposed to pay over the 2-year cycle. In practical terms, if the $640 million is not paid, what does not get funded here at the UN? What offices are shut down? Which employees are laid off? Which programs will not be able to help people around the world?
Well, first of all, I really don't want to discuss in the kind of hypothetical scenario. If the amount that we may receive of the largest contributor is not the amount that is more or less comparable with in the past pattern, all things, what is going to have consequences, and how this income shortfall will be affecting the program delivery and all things. Of course, I told you, there is a cash flow. The issue is, there's another question, is budget issue. Budget issue means budget is only also program. As I explained to you, that the budget and program has been approved by member state. Secretary General has responsibility to implement the program to the extent possible, of course. At the same time, we have to make sure the cash balance is there. In order to meet this, there is cash balance, so-called regular budget reserve, as I told you. Always there is a timing issue, so long as it's cash flow things. So therefore, that if the late payment, or how to call this, not full payment, to the extent possible, this cash reserve will be used, isn't it? Yeah. And then also this, if cash reserve, whatever official cash reserve is called working capital fund in the special account. It's called total 350 million at this moment. Okay. And if that's not enough, there are some additional, how to call internal borrowing that the UN has been doing. For instance, last year what we did is the closed peacekeeping mission. It's closed mission. They have a cash, for instance. Temporarily, we are not going to. So there are many ways to spill over. But, the carry over on this one. But if it's a question of budget, it's a different thing. Budget must be changed by member state.
Go ahead.
I think question for Mr. Yukio. How do you evaluate China's financial contribution to the United Nations? Thank you.
Thank you very much. China's financial contribution to UN is very substantial. The increasingly share of Chinese contribution to UN is increasing, as you know. And most recent revision of scale assessment has changed dramatically. China is now, in terms of regular budget scale, third largest contributor. And in terms of peacekeeping operation, second largest contributor, about 10% of all things, because of the permanent membership. And it's increasing, I think, in future too. And I think this also corresponds to this very, I think, important role that China is playing, not only many substantive activities, but in Fifth Committee as well. I noticed that China is a very active negotiator and compared to many years ago. And I think it shows how responsible they feel about effective and efficient management of the money that they are spending, investing. Thank you for that appreciation.
NHK?
Thank you for briefing. I'm NHK's Sato. As before, you don't want to answer the hypothetical question, but we media sometimes ask you the hypothetical question. And actually, the U.S. budget cut policy has come into reality. So my question is about the PKO budget. And the U.S. already said the cut the volume from 28% to 25%. And in my knowledge, that just before the negotiation and argument for the next fiscal year's budget has started. So do you how do you feel and the U.S. To the pressure? How do you feel that the budget cut pressure from the U.S. and how do you the prospect for the management of the UN budget, especially the PKO? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The size of peacekeeping budget is very much bigger than regular budget, as you know. Regular budget is basically 5.6 billion, so per year $2.78 billion. But the peacekeeping operation closer to $80 billion per year. So you can see 2.5 times bigger. And of course, it's reflecting, of course, requirement, of course, there are 14, 15 peacekeeping missions, and we have troops and others, very much costly operation, and a dangerous situation too. And then peacekeeping operation budget, and I think how to share, there's two issues here. The size of peacekeeping budget is closer to $8 billion. Is it too much? And then how then the efficiency should be achieved? This is one issue, which is going to be discussed in General Assembly. I mean, basically discussing in General Assembly now, Fifth Committee. It started Monday, and most likely next week they're going to be introduced. And in month of May, there will be the serious negotiation with member state. So therefore, already SABQ made a recommendation to reduce the size of peacekeeping budget, about 7.9 to 7.5 or something. And of course, this is only recommendation. And then definitely, member state will negotiate if it's good enough. That's one thing. But the question is that in terms of efficiency, Secretary General instituted that we really have to find every possible saving and make operation as efficient as possible, including air transport and many other things that we are doing. I think it's a responsibility to make it more efficient as soon as possible. Second question is another issue. You mentioned about share of United States, for instance. Right now, U.S. share of peacekeeping operation is closer about 28.5%, just below 20%. And then regular budget scale is 22%, as you're familiar, meaning permanent members, including United States, like China, paying higher rate for peacekeeping scale because of their responsibility as permanent members. So that in order to, first budget is approved, then this share is applied because scale of assessment of peacekeeping operation has been approved already, 2016, 17, 18. So therefore, whatever level of budget is approved for peacekeeping operation, that will be shared by member state. And if the member state want to change that, for instance, 28.5%, 25%, whatever all things, this must be subject to negotiation among member states. It's a different negotiation about budget itself. Budget itself is one thing, annual thing. And it's very rare, exceptional. In the past, it never happened that in the middle of 3 years, because scale has been established. Scale means scale of assessment. It's agreed every 3 years. So up to 16, 17, 18 has been agreed upon. But it's all entirely up to member state if they are willing to reopen this issue and renegotiate and all things. But there will be serious implications. It's a kind of pie, 100%. So you cannot just, you cannot reduce the budget size because it's share again. If you reduce budget size, again, you have to share. So really, this is a separate negotiation to be needed. Thank you.
Joe and then Matthew. And then
Yeah, Joseph Klein, Canada Free Press. Just a couple of questions relating to numbers. But first, is the difference in terms of percentage between the U.S. assessment and the regular budget versus peacekeeping, that 6% difference, solely because of, in the case of peacekeeping, reflecting the U.S.'s status as one of the permanent members of the Security Council? So that would be my first question. Second, relating to China, you mentioned China's contribution to peacekeeping and so forth. And I'm also looking at the cash on hand for peacekeeping as of April 30th of $4 billion. I'm wondering why China in particular, India also, which is in one of your slides listed as having paid all the assessments, why is there such a lag when you have all this cash on hand in paying for their troop contributions? And finally, relating to numbers, you have December 31st, you had peacekeeping cash in hand of $2.7 billion, and you have a negative figure for regular budget of $123 million, if I'm reading it correctly. is there no flexibility other than what you mentioned about closed peacekeeping operations, given this huge disparity in positive cash flow versus negative cash flow, to temporarily borrow from peacekeeping to cover immediate cash needs on the regular budget side? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have raised many questions. First of all, scale of peacekeeping scale for permanent members. You're quite right that the General Assembly agreed first regular budget scale every 3 years. And then, of course, depending on the basis of recommendation, committee and contribution, there are methodology. I don't go into detail on this one. And on top of that, General Assembly agreed certain formula of calculating the scale of assessment of peacekeeping operations with heavier responsibility of the permanent members and so-called, these allowances for low-income countries. The per capita income is lower. Then they give certain allowances, certain categories. For instance, low income, per capita income is lower. You get a discount of 1/5, 1/8, or whatever. So all this discount or allowances will be distributed among 5 permanent members. That's why the difference counts. So, because US is 22 regular budget, that's why proportionately they get higher. But China is getting same share. Russia is getting same share. It's regular budget, peacekeeping operations. Question is about when you have this lot of cash in the peacekeeping operation, why don't you pay more quickly to these troop contributing countries? We are making effort, really. First of all, why you have so much cash? Think about if it's the annual operation, peacekeeping operation is $8 billion per year. You need 700, 800 million per month operationally. So therefore, that's normal to have a 3 months operational thing. So it's a number that we are talking of peacekeeping operations very much bigger. Why these about 220 million something troop cost is still outstanding is a procedure that we really have to count how many troops and how many days they are there in every mission. And then on the basis of that, they will pay. Contingent on equipment is more complicated because you need certification. In the verification, you need memorandum understanding, negotiation, all things. And in fact, a lot of disbursement is made in reality. Net basis, 220 million left over, but it's only for first quarter is paid already. And we're now May. It's second quarter will be paid soon. So in other words, we are prepared to expedite as much as possible. So this is the amount that we're talking 770 million something. Probably could be reduced 100 million or something, but you cannot make it zero because you have to verify. There are several ways, I think personally, to reduce this, but you cannot make it zero. You need some kind of time lag. About this closed mission, this is something that I hinted earlier. In other words, regular budget reserve is working capital fund and special account. That is $350 million. Equivalent to probably 6 weeks operation, 5-6 weeks operation regular budget. And already last year, in toward the end of the year, we really needed more than that reserve. So that we borrowed from closed mission temporarily. And this is an additional kind of cushion that we're using as a reserve. Thank you.
Matthew?
Matthew Lee, Intercity Press, on behalf of the Free UN Coalition for Access. Thanks for doing these briefings. You said that you won't answer on hypotheticals of what the U.S. may or may not do. So I wanted to ask you about the UN, actual UN proposals and their financial implications. I've asked a little bit about the Chief Executive Board's meeting that recently took place. And there I've noticed that the staff union talked about several things that have to do with the budget. One having to do with a proposal for administrative offshoring, as they call it, meaning moving finance and other functions out of New York. There's also a proposal for cooling off periods before diplomats join the UN. Since you were both a diplomat and now a UN, I don't know what you think of that. And specifically, the migration office that was created by the Secretary General. My understanding is that it hasn't yet been approved by the Fifth Committee, that there was an approval of 2 individuals by ACABQ. Is it part of your budget now? How would you describe, what is the size of that office? And how is it consistent with an atmosphere in which you may not know if cuts are coming, but at least cuts are threatened? Are there parts of the UN system that are growing? And are they being overseen other than by, ACABQ and a closed-door process? Thanks a lot.
Okay. Well, first of all, I don't recall that I was attending myself CB meeting last week. Issue that you have described came up, so probably there is some, this rumor or whatever. But anyway, it didn't come out. But anyway, apart from that, I just want to say, you mentioned about, in order to reduce expenditure, whatever, you move some of the operation to low-cost area. You mentioned offshore, I think, things. Again, I really want to establish the facts, because I have been personally involved in this issue of management reform in the last few years, and it's a personal commitment on this one. The General Assembly has been involved in creating more efficient service delivery for UN Secretariat in order to make full use of a new ERP system called Umoja. Now, after very difficult work, a lot of investment, UN is now Secretariat, globally, working in one operating system, and financially, HR, procurement, other things. This is extremely important. Once in generation reform, we have done it. So wherever you go, any mission, wherever, they are treated the same way, calculated the same way, and expected. You see? So to make use of this, so now we can modernize this organization. We have, at this moment, 10 payroll offices. We used to have more than payroll in Secretariat. We have so many account payable offices. We have so many travel processing offices. So many, offices like this. In Umoja, we really can consolidate this one. It's very clear. This is called Global Service Delivery Model. Secretary General presented proposal last year, and the Member State and General Assembly requested more detailed financial program proposal to this coming General Assembly. And the team in my office is developing this together with this one. In this connection, Member State very clear, General Assembly said, in order to develop this kind of model, global model, make full use of existing facility. Meaning, I am convinced that UN Secretariat is a universal organization. It's not only New York. We have Geneva, Vienna, Nairobi, but also regional commissions and many peace operations. In other words, member states attach very great importance for universality in this process. In other words, UN Secretariat is different, I can tell you, of extra budgetary, voluntary funded program like UNICEF, UNDP, UNHCR, and others. Member states attach very great importance on this one. So offshoring and other things is something member states are very, very cautious before going to that kind of concept. Make use of existing facility more efficiently. So that is simply, I just want to categorically, rule out that kind of rumor, because it's kind of, in my opinion, they're not helpful. That is not our agenda. So, and conditional service as well. This is again, the issue is determined by International Civil Service Commission, and I don't go into detail on technical aspect on this one. And the Migration Office and other things, I'm not involved directly on this 2 posts, 3 posts, and other things. We means Secretary General is very clear that we follow any initiative must follow to establish budgetary procedure, meaning and also strict budgetary discipline. These are 2 guiding principles that are governing. Meaning, it's a bit technical, I'm sorry, that there are certain competences that Secretary General can do. He cannot create a new post. But certain things you have to go through ACBQ. And certain things ACBQ can decide. Certain things ACBQ cannot decide. Have to recommend to General Assembly, and the Fifth Committee approve it. There are certain stages there. Okay.
Sorry, Anna.
Thank you, Stefan. Anna Nazluan, LRAM, Armenia. Mr. Takasu, as you said yourself, it's all about programs. So I wanted to ask a targeted question. Information is being circulated, certainly, now that UN population program is the one to take particular heat of budget cuts. Can you shed some light on this? Because this can have devastating effects on developing countries, especially women rights, as well as UN employees themselves who work within the framework of this program. And also, just in general, not not hypothetically, but practically speaking, if UN budget boat has some gaps or breakages, do we have crisis funds? Does UN have crisis funds or crisis cash to fill in the gaps, or the programs themselves have to be cut or modified? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. The first, I think, point that I have to emphasize is that most of this briefing I have been giving is so-called the budgetary program. Budgetary means the UN Secretariat throughout the world and or peacekeeping operation tribunal. There are funds and programs that you mentioned, UN funds and program, UNICEF, UNHCR, WFP. These are so-called funds and program. They're not included in assessed contribution. So their activities are entirely based on the voluntary contributions. Obviously, this, if U.S. Decision to not stop contribution to UNFPA, of course there will be the major devastating impact on this one because U.S. is the largest contributor of the population program and a lot of program implications. I think you have made a statement on behalf of the Secretary General.
I don't think you were here, but there was, refer you, a strong statement from the Secretary General explaining the horrible impact these cuts could have on UNFPA.
Thank you.
Yeah, and go back to the kind of question, when there is a shortfall of resources, is there any crisis fund supporting this one? The extra budgetary activities we call voluntary contribution program like that. They do have some kind of program reserve, certain percentage in all things. To the extent short term they can manage this one perhaps, but it's not the long run. Basically, there is a legal differences between UN, the budget, which is legal obligation. They have to, member states have no choice, they have to pay. Sooner or later, If they cannot pay this year, it's paid after the next year. It's a book is not disappearing. But the voluntary funded program is different. Of course, we very much hope that they'll continue to, they have predictable funding. But it's up to member state, basically. If the member state reduce, cut, and other thing, there is no legal basis that, because it's a voluntary contribution. That's the thing. So as far as regular budget program and other things concerned, if there is cash for issues, I told you, so-called reserve is there. And then if reserve is not sufficient, then we have to do some kind of internal adjustment. If it's not enough, obviously we have to, to propose the member state that some program may have to be reduced. But anyway, we're not at that stage yet.
So adjustments, I'm sorry, are being made from the regular budget to this voluntary programs?
That is prohibited. That is prohibited by General Assembly.
Thank you.
I just want to get some clarity on the legal obligations of member states and if the U.S. cuts budgets for peacekeeping or some of the other proposals in the Trump budget plan, would it be violating any of its legal obligations to the UN Charter? And if so, what action could the UN take? And second, aside from China, which other countries do you anticipate the UN going to compensate for those lost funds?
Well, I'm not very sure the first question about legal obligation. It's, as I told you, this charter says very clearly, expenses of organization is borne by member state. That's a language. Means expenses, we are talking about budget, regular budget and peacekeeping operation. Many years in the area, some country challenged. Charter doesn't say peacekeeping budget. Expenses doesn't say regular budget, but expense means regular budget, but not peacekeeping operation. That was contested legally, but the judgment was made that peacekeeping budget is also expenses of organization. So no legal obligation is not disputed on this one. Scale of assessment again. It's binding, member state. See, very clear, apportioned by this. It's a charter language. See, so therefore that the General Assembly approved the budget, approved scale of assessment, and the amount comes and distributed. Secretary General write letter of assessment we call, and that is legal obligation. Second question of I think it's very, very clear. If it's misunderstood, I think I don't think any member state have prepared. Came forward to fill the gap. That is not true to say. What I'm saying is that because of Chinese economy is growing, and then emerging economy going, as a result of adjustment or recalculation because of economic indicator, because the principle of scale of assessment is capacity to pay, because economic strength. So therefore, that the Chinese share has increased, but it doesn't mean to compensate for somebody who is not paying. I don't think anybody is legally, prepared to pay somebody else's legal obligations.
Edie and then the gentleman in the back.
Am I right in summing up that all members, including the United States, are required to pay the percentage of assessed contribution that was decided for 2016, 2017, and 2018, and that percentage cannot be changed until the next meeting on changing the percentage of assessments is held probably in 2018, I would guess, or maybe 27, but until after 2018's budget.
To make it very precise, you're almost right, but subject to decision by General Assembly. General Assembly is a rule of, the master rule. They can decide if they decide. So that that has subject to decision from GA to you put your formulation. Yes.
Yes, in the back, and that'll be the last question.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you very much, Mr. Takasu. I just wanted to do a follow-up question too, actually, about the peacekeeping issues and the U.S. Financial U.S. budget proposal. In short, how big a challenge would the UN face budget-wise to balance out the needed fund, the monetary expenses, and to fulfill the resolutions and the mandates promised to the countries? How big a challenge exactly is it to do that? The second question, it kind of follows up her question right now, but is it likely that the UN will be looking into other countries to fill in the gaps, or did I miss a line?
The first question about challenge. It's a challenge for UN Secretariat to balance the mandate implementation peacekeeping operation with revenue that payment to be made by member state. Yes, always a challenge to make sure that we do have the sound financial management based on this reasonable basis of cash. At least peacekeeping operation situation is changing. It's not only reducing, it's going to be expanding. So therefore, that rule of thumb for us is that we need 3 months operational requirement at ready all the time. And as you notice that at this moment, we do have on that level. So therefore, that depending, of course, decision by General Assembly, month of May, this month, for the level of peacekeeping budget for next 12 months, obviously. And then, of course, again, once this level is going to be decided by General Assembly, and of course, this is our responsibility to implement that activity. And I really don't see that kind of challenge at this moment on this one. I think the challenge it would be probably peacekeeping a regular budget because of size, cushion, and so and so. Another issue about is any other member state who prepares to come forward if in the event that there is a shortfall on this one? Again, I think it's very much premature discussion because at this moment I had reported you. The financial situation of UN is sound and generally it's good, And at this moment, I think member state, of course, very mindful, as I told you. So many member states are improving their performance payment. Yeah. That is, I think, level of seriousness as a member state, and I think it's very, very positive. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you.